Falcon and the Winter Soldier dropped on Disney Plus this morning, the first episode, and I'm going to be reviewing all these episodes. But I just want to let you know what my thoughts were before I went into this show. I was not excited about the show. Now, I was excited for WandaVision because it looked crazy, it looked different. I wasn't sure what they were going to do. And my complaints with the MCU is that they're very safe, they don't really try new things, and WandaVision was an experiment, and I think it really worked out. I don't think everything about that show was perfect, but I really enjoyed that. So going into this show, I wasn't excited because for a few reasons. First, Falcon and Bucky aren't that interesting of characters. Performance wise, they're just kind of the plucky side characters that I don't really care much about. And then there's also the fact that I didn't like Civil War at all. You can watch my review for why, but essentially I just didn't really like that movie at all. I think it's one of the worst MCU movies ever made, based on one of the best and top selling Marvel comics of all time. And so yeah, I was pretty pissed off with that movie. And so when I watched this show, or not when I watched the show, when I heard about the show being a continuation of that, wasn't excited. It looked very safe. There's a lot of spy shows, and this seems like a generic spy show. So what do I think about this episode? I'm very mixed on it. The first I did. So here's the thing. The opening fight scene, fantastic. It is sad that people are like, wow, the budget for these shows is really big. I always, one of my things, a lot of people now are big into TV. Well, I've never been a big TV person because my thought with TV is I'm not against it. A good show is a good show. But movies are better to me because, number one, you don't stretch things out. Narratives are the exact length they should be for the majority of movies, anyways. Good movies, anyways. Um, Performances are usually weaker in movies, or not in movies and TV shows. I don't know exactly for what reason that is, but it just is that way a lot of the time. Um, a lot of stuff is worse in movies, especially special effects, and people say, well, it's a TV show. Well, yeah, but here's the thing about TV. It's like, if it's distracting in a movie, bad effects are distracting in a TV show. It doesn't change it because it's a TV show. And so, I kind of hate that this is the mentality people have now. They watch this show and they're impressed by these effects. And don't get me wrong, they're well done, good effects, but this should have been the standard for TV a long time ago. And I'm happy it is now, but it's still pretty sad that majority of TV shows don't have this level of budget. I get it, it's a little bit harder because you're doing it on an episode to episode scale, things like that, but I really, really enjoyed this that opening scene. Like it's a fun scene. But the rest of the pilot I didn't care for. I get what they were doing with this pilot. It was not like it was like, okay, to reintroduce us to these characters and give us some time to learn more about them, because Bucky and Sam are not really characters that we know a lot about. Well, okay, well, we do know a lot about them. Not really Falcon so much, so which is Sam, but we know that now we know he has a sister, stuff like that. We know all that stuff now, which but I don't think him having a sister is like, wow, that's a really interesting plot line for this character. Um, Bucky is dealing with the trauma of him being the Winter Soldier. We know all this. And, this isn't a very action oriented episode, which I don't care too much about because it's the pilot. I don't care that much about it. But what annoyed me about this episode was the dialogue and the script. A lot of the script in this episode was terrible. A lot of the moments in this episode, there's a scene with Bucky. He's at a therapy session and he's there, and they're talking, and the therapist is literally saying everything, like pointing it out like you're stupid and you can't see what's happening in the scene. That's a lot of the dialogue within this episode. It's a very boring episode. It's not very well paced. It's kind of just a generic spy show episode, but like the dialogue was really bad in this episode. Like, worse than most Marvel movies. And Marvel movies already kind of treat you a little bit like you're dumb, but this was like kind of like to a really bad degree. I was watching it going, ugh. Jeez, like, why are you pointing everything out that's happening in the scene? I can see what's happening in the scene. You don't need to say it. So, yeah, this is not a good pilot. It's not a bad pilot either. It's just not that great of one. It's kind of a meh pilot. The dialogue needs to definitely be scripted out a lot better. But I'm excited to see the rest of the show simply because I'm going to be watching it either way. But this was kind of just an episode of the show that I would throw on in the background while I'm working on something. Not really something I would give my full attention to because it's so bleh. And yeah, I hope the show gets a lot better, but I was not very happy with what I saw in this pilot. I like that they're trying to give side characters more depth and things like that, but it's kind of like I'm watching this going, okay, but what else? So I don't know, but we'll see. I enjoyed this pilot, so for what it was, I just think there's a lot that could be worked on, and I want to see the show get better from here. At this point, I'm more excited for Loki.